Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Today, I will be speaking about what my personal Sight and Sound ballot would have been had I been invited to vote in the, Sight and Sound poll. Obviously, I'm not a film critic, so I wouldn't be invited. But even if I were, I would not be invited because I've barely seen any movies at this point in time. I've seen roughly 900 movies, and that is not a lot, especially if you compare it to film critics who have seen thousands, if not tens of thousands of movies. 900 is really nothing. So that's why I wouldn't vote in the poll. But like if I were to vote in the poll, these are the 10 movies I would pick, at least for the time being. So this year, by the way, is the Sight and Sound release of the greatest films of all time, and I picked they've released it four times with four different covers. I picked the Citizen Kane cover. I think it's by far the best. They also have one with Jean Dielman, Vertigo, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. But like just comparing the four, I definitely like this one the most. But yeah, maybe you can disagree. So anyway, here are my 10 movies which I would have voted for. I think these are the 10, not necessarily the 10 greatest movies of all time, but certainly a selection of movies which would be worthy of that title, I think. And I'll just go through them in chronological order and then give a bit of a reasoning as to why I would pick those movies. So the first one, i.e. the oldest one, is Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans. Let me see. I think it is a really, really good movie. I think it is really strong. It is my personal favorite movie, actually. So I don't think movies get much better than this. At least from the few movies I have seen, I think this is pretty much as good as it gets. I think it mixes all the genres together, which I think is incredibly important. It has comedic aspects, it has dramatic aspects, it has tragic aspects and romance. It has so many themes, so many universal themes too, which I think is incredibly important for a movie of such a lofty title. I think actually that's something that John Dielman would be missing, is just kind of this universality. It's a very because John Dielman is a very niche movie. It's a very specific movie about what it's trying to say. This one has just basically everything, and it's a very universal movie. Like you could basically show it to anyone, and I think they'll get something out of this because it really is a masterpiece. Another reason why I would pick this movie is because you'd have to have at least one silent movie. I mean, movies began in the silent era. That is really where many of the big cinematic techniques developed. I think it is incredibly important to have at least one silent movie in your list. And third, also one thing that I find incredibly important would be directors. So what are my favorite directors? And this is one of my favorite directors, F.W. Murnau. He made Sunrise, and these are his movies that I've seen in ranked order roughly. So Sunrise is my favorite actually, and that's another reason why I would pick that movie. I think it's incredibly well made. So the next movie is M. So here I have a list of my another one of my favorite directors, Fritz Lang. These are all the movies I've seen by him, and I think M is his best movie. M is actually a very personal movie to me because it is the movie that made me that turned me into a cinephile. It made me fall in love with movies. That was probably like next to Hitchcock's Psycho. This was like the movie that kind of really got me into movies and just wanting to watch more films. So it's incredibly well made. This year is the Blu-ray release of it. As with Sunrise just here, it's from the Masters of Cinema series by Eureka Video. I think it's a really great collection of films they have there. A lot of my favorites are on there, so definitely if you're into films, like that is a great place to start. Just the Masters of Cinema series, and they've got a great release here. Yeah, so M is absolutely phenomenal, and also another reason why I love this so much is because of its use of sound. It's so haunting. It uses sound in so many ways: off-screen sound, on-screen sound. It uses it in really abstract ways. It uses it to advance the storytelling, which is something you wouldn't see a lot in 1931. And finally, it has a phenomenal performance by Peter Lorre, which is definitely like it's this chap over here. Great performance. I think one of the best of all time. So these are the reasons why I would certainly have this on my list. That's not coming off my list. Then I would pick a movie from Ernst Lubitsch. So Ernst Lubitsch is another one of my favorite directors. I think I've expressed this before. You know, he is absolutely amazing. He made brilliant movies. They oftentimes have, they're beautifully comedic. He was very famous for the Lubitsch touch, which wasn't actually always necessarily, it was always like funny and a little satirical, but it oftentimes also had a, you know, a tragic element to it. Not always, but like most of his movies have tragic elements to them too. Like they have a bit of aspect of tragedy, but obviously they're overwhelmingly comedy. So really, you could pick any of those four. These are my four favorite movies by him: Trouble in Paradise, Angel, The Shop Around the Corner, and To Be or Not to Be. I think they're all outstanding movies. I think they would all easily, you know, they could all really like hold a title as one of the greatest movies of all time. I would pick Trouble in Paradise. I think it is his most complete movie. I mean, those four movies are all very complete and they're all very well made. But I think that Trouble in Paradise is probably my favorite movie. But if he hadn't made Trouble in Paradise, I would pick Angel, which is also that was actually the movie that made me realize how what great of a director Lubitsch was. Like I watched that movie and I was blown away completely. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. So any of those four movies, I think are absolutely, you know, they could be on the list like interchangeably. I would pick Trouble in Paradise though from 1932, really good movie, and also a great performance with oh gosh, what's his name? Herbert Marshall. There we go. Great performance by Herbert Marshall, who, you know, and also Miriam Hopkins over here. I hope I'm getting the names right. Miriam Hopkins, and then also who have we got? Kay Francis. So three great lead characters. You can tell by the fact that I forgot all of their names, but Herbert Marshall especially is, I think, a really good actor. So, you know, phenomenal movie. You know, I can't point to a single flaw in this masterpiece, really. So that would be on my list. Then I would go for a Howard Hawks movie. In this case, I would go for Only Angels Have Wings. Again, for multiple reasons. First of all, it has Cary Grant. You need to have one movie with Cary Grant. Like, Cary Grant is so good. Secondly, you know, and also, by the way, this has plenty of other. It has Gene Arthur, it has Thomas Mitchell, and it has a lot of great other actors. It is directed by Howard Hawks, who you can see over here is also one of my favorite directors, and this is his best movie. I think it really is his best movie. Bringing Up Baby is also great. Ball of Fire is phenomenal. His Girl Friday too. You know, again, you could really take on any of those, but I really think Only Angels Have Wings is groundbreaking. Also, as with Sunrise, it mixes so many different genres. It has comedy. It has even a bit of musical. It has a bit of musical in it too. It has adventure. It has you know, tragedy, romance, drama. Pick any genre, and there's an aspect of that in this movie. Which again, very universal. You know, very thematically, very broad. It has you know, anyone can latch onto something in this movie. It's really good. Like, and this here is the Criterion release, which I can really recommend. Also, a beautiful cover. Yeah. So, next movie I would take is one by Billy Wilder. He was great at writing screenplays, and I would pick Double Indemnity. So actually, this is the first movie, so as you can see over here, on this list, my favorite movie by him is Some Like It Hot, but that's basically tied with Double Indemnity. So I have to kind of watch Some Like It Hot again. I've only seen it once, but Double Indemnity is probably the more complete movie, and the more, I think it's probably the greater movie, even though I really enjoyed Some Like It Hot. Either way, this here is the Masters of Cinema release of Double Indemnity. It's an outstanding film noir. To be honest, that is actually the reason why I would pick this. I would have to pick some film noir. And if it weren't for this, I would probably pick The Maltese Falcon by John Huston, or The Big Heat by Fritz Lang, possibly Laura by Otto Preminger. But, you know, this is probably the best one. Like, this is oftentimes cited as the best film noir, certainly. And I think it is absolutely groundbreaking. I think it is so well written and so, you know, so well acted, and just everything. It flows incredibly well. It just really flies by. So certainly, like, Double Indemnity is, you know, great movie. Like, has to be on this list. Then I would pick a movie which I have no from 1946. It was filmed in 1936, and it's called A Day in the Country. I think it is. Well, I mean, it is a short film. It's only 41 minutes long, so go and watch it because, like, there's no reason not to. Like, yeah, it's 41 minutes. The way it uses pathetic fallacies is just amazing. It's set in the country, and it uses the weather. Sometimes there's great sunlight and the weather is good, and then there's scenes where it rains and it's really sad, and it's like it's an emotional roller coaster. It's absolutely amazing the way it's written. The ending is okay. I don't want to spoil too much. Maybe just skip forward like a couple of seconds. But the ending is at once very tragic and also very beautiful. It's such an ambivalent ending. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I think really the entire movie is just groundbreaking, and it's directed by Jean Renoir. So, who made a lot of great movies. He made the Grand Illusion and The Rules of the Game, which are all good movies, but I think this one is definitely his best one. I've seen four of his movies, so I haven't seen that much. I haven't seen that many, but this one is really good. It's really really good. So A Day in the Country. I'll go into more in-depth analysis some other day because there's so much to talk about with this movie. But really, so it's a romance and it has comedy. As I said, it has a bit of tragedy, and it just flows so incredibly well. And it's a French movie, so I thought I'd have to get at least one foreign film in there. Obviously, M by Fritz Lang is also a foreign film, but considering I come from Germany, so that it doesn't have that completely foreign feeling to me. So I would have to pick a foreign film so that would be non-English or non-German. So, and that would be A Day in the Country. So these are the reasons why I would pick this one. It's absolutely amazing. Then I would go for It's a Wonderful Life by Frank Capra. I mean, not too much to say here. Like everything that is great about this movie has already been said, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory why this is one of the greatest movies of all time. It's a beautiful comedy. Again, it has aspects of tragedy. I think it has the best performance of all time, possibly, by James Stewart. Oh yeah, and also, James Stewart, great actor, maybe my favorite actor. Like, he would have at least one movie on this list, and here we have one. And it's just, very well, the story is amazing, the plot is phenomenal, the way it's shot. Frank Capra was a great director, and is also just the best Christmas movie. So, I have no complaints with this movie. I have no complaints. So Orson Welles here, who was, who you can see here on the Sight and Sound cover, he was asked once, who are the greatest filmmakers? And I'm paraphrasing here, so he was asked something along those lines. And he answered, well, I prefer the old masters. And when he was asked, who may that be? He answered, John Ford, and John Ford. And here you have my list of John Ford movies ranked. I haven't seen that many. I've seen 10, which is not a lot. He made a lot of movies. But I think The Searchers is certainly just his masterpiece. And I think it is just one of the greatest movies of all time. Over here, I've got just the Blu-ray release of this. I think really, like, if I could only choose one movie, it might be this one. It might very well be this one. Next to Sunrise, possibly, or I don't know. Like, it would be difficult, but like this one is really, it has so much. It has everything you would want from a movie. It is the greatest Western of all time. I haven't seen that many Westerns, but out of the ones I've seen, this is the greatest, and I don't think it'll get much better than this. And I just think The Searchers is an absolutely phenomenal movie through and through. Again, it has comedic elements too. So John Ford always liked a little bit of comedy in his movies, and sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't work that much. Here it works. It works great in this thing. Has a lot of domestic comedy. Has also the outside shots. So the landscapes are beautiful, and it's just it's The Searchers. It has a great lead performance by John Wayne, and it has possibly the greatest movie ending of all time. It's great. It's just so really great. So then I would pick a movie by Alfred Hitchcock. He is my favorite director. I've seen 40 of his movies. This is my ranking, my very vague ranking. There's so many movies, it's hard to rank. But yeah, I mean, what do you pick by him? Like, again, anything here in the top 10 you could choose, really. Like, he made so much good stuff. I'll pick Vertigo. Vertigo, I think, is his best movie. I think it is, again, a great James Stewart performance. It has great atmosphere, great cinematography. It has a very interesting and thought-provoking storyline, and it's a great psychological thriller. And, I've seen it 5 times now. There were times where I just plainly got annoyed by it, and I didn't massively appreciate it on an emotional level, while I still absolutely loved it on a critical level. I was just like, wow, this is so amazing. There were other viewings where I was just brought near an emotional breakdown, basically. I was just absolutely, it was so suspenseful. But this is just a movie that you can watch over and over again, and I interact with it differently every single time, which I think is absolutely, that is hard to achieve. Vertigo is great. If I couldn't pick Vertigo, I would probably pick Psycho, Frenzy, The Lady Vanishes, or Rear Window. And finally, if I haven't forgotten anything, it's Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull. I can't really say that much. I'll just put in a photo here. It has a phenomenal performance by Robert De Niro. It's a great character study. It is very well directed. It has a lot of very innovative camera techniques, and the editing is phenomenal. The sound design is great. It uses, oh goodness, I'll be mispronouncing everything here, but it uses Pietro Mascagni's Intermezzo, which is just a great classical piece of music or I believe it's post-romantic, so yeah, don't quote me on this, but it's a great piece of music to have as a theme, and just it's so good. It's so good. Just the entire thing. It's basically a perfect movie. It's so well written, so well acted, and incredibly well produced. I would certainly pick for this. I'd certainly pick this one. This here's my final list. So you can have a look at it again. Put your list in the comment section. I'll be really interested. I'll look through I'll look through a list if you're interested. I think it's very interesting. I think that shows. I think it tells a lot about the person. Just looking at their top 10 movies. Again, 10 movies is very hard to narrow down the entirety of cinema history into 10 movies, and it was hard for me. Hasn't even seen 1,000 movies. It's very hard for those critics. But that would be these would be the 10 movies for me at this point in time. And finally, I'll show. This is a list I've made, just a couple of months back, and as you can see, it's already a bit different. So it has 2001: A Space Odyssey, it has Tokyo Story, and it has The Maltese Falcon. So The Maltese Falcon, as a substitute for Double Indemnity as the best film noir. 2001: A Space Odyssey instead of possibly Raging Bull. I don't know really which one exchanged which, but as a little bit more modern. It's not a modern movie, but as a movie that's a bit more modern than my the general films I generally watch, and Tokyo Story as the foreign film, which I've exchanged for A Day in the Country. So again, also 3 great movies, but just at this point in time, I'd rather have these 3 movies that I substituted them with in the list. So this was my list just a couple of months ago, and this shows 30% of it has changed in just a couple of months. So that's why, these lists are very volatile, at least for me, especially considering I haven't seen that many movies. But yeah, absolutely. So this here is my final list, and I'll see you next time if I decide to make another YouTube video sometime. Thanks for watching.